business. Awesome. And our guest today is Ryan Wardell, who can give a better introduction of himself than I could. But our talk today is about getting customers using cold email outreach. And with that, I'll hand things off to Ryan.
Thanks, Andy. Much appreciated. Hi, guys. Hope you're all having a good day today. What I'm going to be talking about today is really a crash course in the most important part of a business, which is getting more people to pay you money. So I'll talk about cold email outreach, why I like it, how to use it. I'm going to go through, this is quite a tactical talk, so I'm going to show you some examples of subject lines that have worked really well for me in the past, some examples of email copy that's been really effective. I've got some other tips and tactics in there along the way. Cool. Alrighty, guys, just before we kick things off, are we able to set up a poll or something here? It'd be really interesting to see. So a lot of the tactics that I'm going to discuss today, so if you imagine there's a spectrum. So in the middle, you've got people targeting small and medium-sized businesses. At one end, you've got people targeting big enterprises, and at the other extreme, you've got people targeting consumers. So can you put a poll together and ask people if you're B2C, if you're targeting SMBs, or if you're more enterprise focused? Maybe drop
All right, that'll take a second. Cool. So B2B, SMBs, B2C. All right, and this will pop up in a second.
Awesome. So yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind dropping that in there. The reason I bring that up is most of what I'm going to focus on today is really targeted at SMBs, but if you are focused on the enterprise, all the same principles apply. You just want to spend a bit more time personalizing your emails and being a bit more targeted with them. So you send fewer emails, but they're higher quality. If you're going after consumers though, just bear in mind that it's against the law, CAN-SPAM and GDPR, to reach out to consumers directly without their permission. However, what you can do is you can use these same principles to reach out to influencers, partners, YouTubers, anyone who has an audience that is the people you're trying to target, and you can reach out to them and partner up with them. I had when I was running a marketing agency, we had this one important partner, and I think they sent us like 50 grand worth of consulting work in the space of a few months. So partnerships are really powerful, and you can use exactly the same tactics when you're doing that. So cool. Alrighty.
So we have the poll open. If you haven't responded to it yet, please do so now. This is a real super interactive webinar. So please, if you look on the screen, there should be a poll there for you. All right.
Cool.
And we'll close this out in just a few seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right. The poll is closed out. And what are our results? Most people targeting B2Bs and SMBs.
Fantastic. It's good to see. Good to see. All right, let's get into it. So this is me. My name's Ryan Wardell. I'm from Australia. If the accent's confusing you, but I'm in Argentina at the moment for all sorts of reasons. So I built 3 different businesses using cold email outreach. So the first one was a software business. Sold that in 2012. It was a big enough exit to go and sit on the beach for a few months, but not a big enough exit to go and buy a Lamborghini. So I got to go and do it again. I ran a marketing consultancy based in London for a little while. We did a lot of cold email, both to grow our own business, and we also did on behalf of our clients and helping them grow theirs. These days, I run a business called Startup Source, which is an online community for SaaS founders, as well as a done-for-you cold email service, again, for SaaS or companies targeting SaaS. So the reason I bring this up is what I'm about to show you in this presentation today works for a whole lot of different use cases and a whole lot of different businesses. So I built a software business, I built an agency or a consultancy, and I built a community all using these same tactics. So it is quite flexible, what you're about to learn in the talk today. And so it doesn't really matter what kind of business you have, as long as you're targeting businesses, B2B, this is going to work well. And if you're targeting B2C, again, you can reach out to partners and adapt these same tactics there. If you do have any questions or you want to connect with me, there's my email address, ryan@startupsource.com, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. If you've got any questions or you want to clarify anything, let me know. I'll leave that up just for another minute if you want to copy it down, but ryan@startupsource.com is me. So cold email outreach is the method by which we contact other businesses who don't know us yet. So we're taking the initiative here. They don't know who we are. They've never heard about us or heard from us in the past. So we're taking the initiative and we're making the first move here. The goal with this is generally to get decision makers onto a phone call so that we've got an opportunity to sell to them. Now, there are a lot of things that I like about cold email. In fact, so I've been a mentor at a few startup accelerators in Australia, the US, a few in Europe. And what we found consistently is that early on, the most effective channels were cold email and partnerships. The thing about partnerships is you need to cold email to initiate the partnership. So really cold email is pretty central to it. So SEO and content is fantastic, but it does take a while to get the ball rolling. It's a little bit faster if you're building links using Postaga. Bit of a shout out to Andy there, but it does take 6 to 12 months, even if you know what you're doing, to really ramp things up with content and SEO. So even though content and SEO is great, it's not as fast straight out of the gates as cold email is. And anyone who's done a lot of paid advertising. So I used to do a lot of PPC, especially Google ads. And while it's effective, while you can get it started very, very quickly, it is very expensive relative to cold email. So that's another reason to use cold email. But my favorite one, and probably the biggest one, is that you don't actually need a website. A lot of entrepreneurs that I talk to, I say, have you got any customers yet? And they say, oh no, I'm still building my website, or I need to buy a domain, or I need to work with my web developer to get it. No. You don't need any of that stuff. And I can attest to this personally. So when I started the marketing consultancy in London, we sold over $100,000 worth of consulting services before we even had a website. So you don't need a website to do this. The whole point is you're emailing them, you get on a phone call, and then you can do business straight away. You don't, a website is nice to have, but not essential in there at all. So don't let that be a barrier to you. And if you are just starting out in business, cold email might be a really good way to get your first initial customers, get some testimonials, build up some traction. And then when you launch the website, you've got something to work with there. So I just want to throw a few stats at you. This is, depending on what you read, the industry standard performance for email. So open rate is 18 to 24%, and the reply rate is usually less than 3%. I've seen a lot of businesses that don't even hit these numbers, and that can be quite dismal because you've got to go to quite a lot of effort. Imagine if you're sending out 100 emails and only 24 of them are getting opened, and so even fewer people are even reading it. So using the process that I'm going to show you today, you're able to get much better results from that. So as I mentioned, part of our business is we have a done-for-you cold email service. What we typically aim for with our clients is an open rate between 60 and 80%. I've got one client at the moment who's laughing. He's doing very well. He's got an open rate that's above 90%, which is kind of crazy, and I'm pretty proud of that one. But 60 to 80% is pretty good in terms of open rates, and a reply rate of 5 to 20%. If you can hit those two numbers somewhere there, even at the lower range, 60% open rate, 5% reply rate, that's generally enough to scale up this process, and it's generally profitable. So you can keep on sending out more emails, getting more clients, and growing your business in a scalable way. So this is Startup Source. This is my business. So as I said, on one side of the business is a community for SaaS founders based outside of Silicon Valley. I built this primarily using cold email outreach. We had some people come from Facebook and a few referrals and stuff like that. But the bulk of the members who were in there came because I reached out to them via email, got them onto a phone call, told them what we were doing, got them excited about it. And lo and behold, they ended up wanting to join. If you are running a SaaS company and you want to have a chat about it, please feel free to drop me an email. And what came of that is that a lot of people in the group were saying, hey, look, I want to do cold email. And I told them how to do it. And they said, that sounds great. I don't have time. Can you do it for me? So we recently launched a done-for-you cold email service as well. And that's how that came to be. More recently, we've put together a course on cold email outreach that's a lot more affordable than getting us to do it. So you've still got access to all the same templates that we use, subject lines, open rates, all the tricks and tactics that we use ourselves. It's just that, if you're the do-it-yourself type, this is probably better for you. It's normally $147. There is a bit of a discount that I'll share with you later on. This is what we're going to cover in this. So the preheating method, when I talk about preheating, that's a specific tactic that utilizes LinkedIn and social media in addition to cold email to get you even better results. But yeah, so there's kind of a 5-step process here. We start with targeting, work through to setup and preheating. Then we get around to actually writing and sending the emails. Then there's a process in terms of following up. And then finally, we do all this correctly. You end up on a sales call with the client and you've got an opportunity to sell to them. So if you go to preheatingmethod.com, you're interested in doing the course, you can save yourself a bit of money if you use the discount code vertical21, all in capital letters. So you get $50 off. But again, most of what I'm going to cover today is a very stripped down version of what's covered in the course. It's quite a long course, like 6 hours of content in there, so we don't have enough time to cover all of it today. I'm going to try and hit some of the main points, but if you are interested in exploring that further, I'd encourage you to go to preheatingmethod.com, whack in that discount code, save yourself some cash, and start building a scalable, repeatable cold email outreach system for yourself. Okay, so let's get started. So a lot of people I talk to, and I say, oh, have you tried cold email? They say, isn't that just spam? And I think there's a really important, clear distinction we need to make between what is cold email and what is spam. So cold email is highly targeted, it's personalized, but above all, it is useful. We're not reaching out to everyone. This isn't a spray and pray kind of approach. We're only targeting people that we think we can legitimately help. We're trying to present what we can do in a way that's very easy to understand, easy for them to make a decision about. And more than anything else, we're focusing on quality rather than quantity. Spam is just, yeah, blast it all out there, hope that something sticks. And over the years, everyone's been making it harder and harder for that to get into the inbox. If you try the spam, spray and pray approach, it just doesn't work anymore. Cold email still works, and it will work for the foreseeable future. That's how most B2B business is transacted. Someone's got to make the first move, so you've got to send an email out to initiate some kind of relationship with that person. Spam doesn't work. So if you're not targeting your emails correctly, if you're not bothering to personalize them, if you're not bothering to have a relevant, compelling offer in those emails, and you're just blasting out and focusing on volume rather than relevance, you're not going to get results. If you focus and take the cold email approach, you will. And I know this because I've built three different businesses using cold email, so I know it works. There's really 3 pillars that we're going to cover today. And if you imagine a tripod with 3 different legs supporting it, the key thing to bear in mind here conceptually is that if one of these legs is a bit weak and it collapses and it falls over, the whole thing is going to fall over. So you do need to get all 3 of these things correct. The first one is relevance. So what that means, like I said, we're not blasting out to everyone. We're only focusing on the people that we legitimately think we're in a good position to help. The second one is deliverability, which is a series of steps that you can and actions you can take to give yourself the best chance of landing in the inbox where people are going to see your email rather than going into the spam folder. A lot of people that I talk to, I say, have you tried cold email? And they say, oh yeah, I tried it. It didn't work too well. And I say, okay, well, show me the email that you wrote. Did you do all the setup stuff? Did you do all the warm up stuff? And they say, oh no. And so what's happened is they haven't really tried it properly because they spent all this time writing this big, long, complicated email, and then it's gone straight into the spam folder. No one's ever seen it. No one's ever responded to it. And so they think cold email doesn't work. It's not the case. It's just that they didn't do the deliverability stuff right. And it's really important to get right. I'm going to gloss over that one a little bit, and you'll see why a little bit later on. But the TLDR version of that is that Postaga actually handles a lot of that stuff for you automatically. So when I go through it, I'll show you like what you would need to do if you were, trying to do it manually or trying to do it yourself. So Postdog is going to save you bucket loads of time when it comes to doing all the deliverability stuff. And the third pillar here is the messaging itself, which is what subject lines are going to get people to open my emails and read my emails. What can I put in the email content itself that is going to get people excited and get them want to reply, want to get on a sales call with me, want to take further action. We'll go through all that in just a moment. So let's talk about relevance first of all. Very first step is you need to know who your customer is. And this is why that whole spam, spray and pray approach, just, scrape a list of 1 million emails and start blasting it doesn't work anymore. So what you really need to do is think about your ideal customer profile, ICP. So what that actually means from a cold email perspective is how big are these companies that we want to target? Whether you look in terms of revenue or employees or some other metric, but how big are they? Which industry or sector are they in? Who is the decision maker? Now, as you go towards bigger and bigger companies and go more towards the enterprise end, you'll find that there's often multiple decision makers involved in that buying process. So if you're an agency, you might reach out to the marketing manager. But there's also, the CTO is also involved as well, because they've got to do some development work, and maybe they've got a financial officer who's got to approve it, or the CEO's got to come in and approve it. So you might have multiple people involved in that process. So figuring out who all the decision makers are is really important. And finally, and this is probably the most important part, is what problems or pain points do they have that you can solve for them? And you need to have a really clear and compelling way of answering that last question, because when you're sending an email out to someone who doesn't know who you are, doesn't have a whole lot of trust, has never heard of you before, doesn't know if you're legitimate or if you're just some scammer, some Nigerian prince. So if you only have a moment of their attention to really grab it and want to get them onto a phone call, so you need to make the most. You need to have a really compelling value proposition that answers that problem or pain point question. Got a quick pro tip for you here. So if you think about a business, and I've seen this all the time, if you don't know who you should reach out to, always target the person at the top, the CEO, the business owner, the general manager, managing director. Sometimes that's the job title they use. The reason being is that if you target someone beneath them, if they don't respond to your email, nothing happens. They don't lose their job. They don't necessarily feel any pain of missing out, because whether the business doubles or halves or gets more clients doesn't really affect them and their job so much. So what I tend to encourage people to do, so we've got a client, for example, who targets CTOs and VPs of technology. It's quite a technical product or service, and they really want to target more technical people within an organization. And what we found worked really well is we target them in the first month. If they don't respond, then we target the CEO the following month. And often what you'll see is the CEO will then forward it on to the CTO or the VP of technology, or the person we emailed originally, and I'll say, hey, this looks interesting. Can you please get on a call and talk about it? So you're giving yourself another opportunity. Quite often bouncing up to bounce down to the person you really want to talk to is more effective than going directly. So try both. One other thing, if you can possibly avoid it, try to find an actual person's email address and send to that, rather than generic email addresses like info at, support at, hello at, sales at, that kind of stuff. The reason being is that often those kind of generic email addresses are monitored by multiple people, and they might be further down the org chart. They're not able to make a decision. Whereas if you target the decision maker directly, you're able to get a better response from them. Sometimes it's unavoidable, especially in e-commerce. What I've been seeing lately is a lot of people just have like support at, and that's the only email address they've got, and that's the only email address you can use. But if you can, try and get a person's name. The other pro tip here is don't bother trying to sell to people who don't have the money to afford your product or service. I was talking to a guy recently who had an SEO agency, and he wanted to target like local restaurants and small businesses. And I said, okay, like, do they have a few $1,000 a month spare to drop on SEO services? And he said, oh, okay, maybe what I'm offering is a little bit too expensive for them. And like, okay, well, like there are restaurants who can afford this, but target those restaurants. That's where the company size comes into play. So when you're doing cold outreach, make sure that you're aligning. I'm only reaching out to people who need what I have to sell and they can afford it. Otherwise, you're just kind of wasting everyone's time. So yeah, again, target it based on company size, and focus on people who can actually afford what you're selling. Okay, so when we're actually building a list, there's 4 ways to do it. So you could buy a list, which I don't recommend. If you absolutely want to do that, drop me an email and I can tell you a few ways of doing it that are a little bit more reputable. But the main reason is if you buy a list, someone else has also bought that list. Someone else has also spammed it to hell and back. And those people on that list are either really resistant, they've got their shields up because they get bombarded with spammy emails all the time, or they've just closed down their email address, set up a new address, and that's the one they focus on. In which case, you're going to be targeting an email address that is not going to not active anymore. It's generally a waste of time. There are a couple of ways you could do it that are a bit more effective, but generally, I'd advise you not to buy any email lists. Second option is to scrape a list, and if you're more technical, that's great. Excuse me. You can also go to Fiverr and Upwork and find people who can scrape lists for you. I'm not a developer, so I always have to rely on other people to do that for me. The thing about scraping is that sometimes it works, and if it does work, it works really well because you can build a really big list quickly. Often it doesn't grab the information that you need to really personalize things effectively, or it's incomplete. So it might grab all the information, but maybe the email address is just a hello at support at or something, and you really need a person's name. So I think scraping is good, but I think it's not sufficient in and of itself. So I tend to combine that with number 3, which is the one that we're really going to focus on today, which is building a list manually or putting it together yourself, or putting a process together and getting someone else to build it manually for you if you've got the time and resources and need to do that. And that's really the last one, which is just paying someone else to do it all for you. And that's more about scaling up and how much time you've got. But certainly I'm going to show you the manual process now. And then if you do decide that you want to scale it up and you want to hire a VA or get someone else to build the list for you, it's pretty straightforward to do that. So the manual process looks like this. We start by finding a list of target companies. Then we find the decision maker on LinkedIn. And then we use some tools to grab their email address. There's a lot of other ways you could do this. You could start with a Google search result and extract all the data there. But this process generally works for most businesses. The tricky part is the first bit, finding that list of target companies. So for example, with Startup Source, so community for SaaS founders. So I started that by going to indie hackers, because there's a whole community of SaaS founders who wanted to be in a community with other SaaS founders already on there. So went to indie hackers, pulled off a list of all the companies, went and found the people who ran those companies and sent them a very targeted email that even mentioned, hey, saw you on indie hackers, and got a really good result from that. I've also had success going through Capterra, G2, like those review sites. You could go to AngelList or Crunchbase and pull off a list of like recently funded tech startups. That works really well as well. But you will find directories of companies. If you're targeting agencies, there's a website called Clutch that's really got a list of a whole bunch of agencies all around the world. So we call those lead pools. What you need to do is you need to find a lead pool, and then you can go through that list of companies. Once you've got the company, you just Google, company plus CEO plus LinkedIn, and you'll hopefully land on the CEO's LinkedIn account or profile page, and then you can pull off their email address. When it comes to pulling off the email address, so don't overthink it. There's a whole bunch of tools out there that will do that. Most of them are Chrome extensions, and most of them will offer a certain number of free credits. So if you're on a really tight budget, what you could do is sign up to a whole bunch and then just use the 50 free credits until you run out this month, and then 100 credits from this one and 50 credits from this other one. What I would recommend if you got the budget for it, SalesQL is, at least in my experience, more accurate than all the other tools that I've tested when it comes to this stuff. It's honestly pretty cost effective too. So if you do need more credits, it's not very expensive. There's one caveat with it. They've recently been pulled from the Google Chrome store. So you can still use it. You can still install it into Chrome. It's just, you got to go through a few extra steps, and they've got that listed on their website. Just follow that through and you'll be able to use SalesQL. But I have found, in terms of accuracy and pulling off the correct email address, SalesQL tends to be a bit better than the other ones that I've tried. Scrap's pretty good, Adapt.io is pretty good, but SalesQL seems to be a little bit better, at least in my experience. And this is what it looks like. So we've looked up Bill Gates. We've gone to his LinkedIn profile page here, clicked on the SalesQL button at the top here, and this is what it pulls up. So it will pull off, it's got a whole list of possible email addresses, but it's got the one that they think is the most likely. So here it is. If anyone wants to reach out to Bill Gates, here you go. You're welcome. And then it's pretty straightforward to just take all of these, stick it in an Excel spreadsheet, and hey presto, you've got a list of prospects that you can reach out to.
So Ryan, you think if I reach out to Bill, he'll respond?
If your email's really good, wait until I share the subject line, because I think it might work on Bill. Absolutely. But yeah, Andy, you can import a CSV file into Postaga pretty easily to start sending stuff out, right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So you can import a list of either domains or also email addresses. And we also have some built-in prospecting tools for sales outreach as well to find different companies.
Awesome, awesome, cool. Okay, so we've gone to Bill. We've found his LinkedIn profile page. We've gone to SalesQL. We've pulled off his email address. And before Andy reaches out to him, we're gonna reach out as well. I'll show you that a little bit later on. So that's how you build the email list. Bearing in mind, again, the main thing is relevance. So you don't want to email everyone. Find a list of relevant companies. You can check them out on LinkedIn to make sure that they've got the, the company size is big enough, or they've got the right job title, whatever. But this process, if I go back to it, this process generally works for most companies as long as you can find that lead pool to begin with. You could also start through LinkedIn Sales Navigator, but it's going to cost you $80 a month. That's okay. Yeah, sometimes LinkedIn's targeting criteria can be really effective and sometimes they're not. So for example, in my case, there's no SaaS category on LinkedIn. So if there was, it'd be way easier. I could just go through LinkedIn Sales Navigator. There isn't. However, I could find a directory and find a list of SaaS companies, then go and find the decision maker on LinkedIn, then extract the email address. So this process works a lot of the time. Okay, so deliverability. Now we're going to skim through this. As I said, like there's a lot of finicky kind of work involved in doing this stuff, and it does. Even if you've got good processes for it, it still takes quite a while. If you've never done it before, it can be a real nightmare to set up. Fortunately, Andy, do you want to talk a little bit about the deliverability side of things from Postaga's perspective?
Yeah, sure. So what Ryan's going to talk about generally about deliverability is that the important thing is that you reach the person's inbox. And with sending emails through Postaga, we have some built-in tools that help increase deliverability because email inboxes are getting smarter and smarter and trying to make sure that keep out spam, obviously. There are different methods that you can employ to over time increase the likelihood that your emails land in people's inboxes rather than get filtered out in spam folders. Like, for example, if you have a brand new email address and you start sending out thousands of emails right away, that's going to look suspicious to mail servers and things like that. So with Postaga, for example, we ramp up the amount of emails that get sent over time, which significantly increases your deliverability and makes sure that you actually land in people's inboxes.
And the number one rule there is if you don't land in the inbox, nobody sees your email. You could have the world's best email that's ever been written, and if nobody sees it, it doesn't matter. It's not going to get you any results. So deliverability is really, really important. And like Andy said, deliverability really means doing everything we can to get the emails to land in the inbox rather than the spam folder. So there's a few things you need to do. Set up on a secondary domain. You could then got to send through G Suite because you'll have better deliverability out of the gates. Again, all this stuff, like it's all taken care of by Postaga, so I don't really need to labor the point too much. But just to give you an indication of what's involved if you were not to use Postaga and all the hoops you got to jump through, and you do need to jump through these hoops. Otherwise, like I said, you're going to write the world's greatest email, and nobody's ever going to see it because it's not going to land in the inbox. DKIM, DMARC, and SPF are DNS settings that you add in. And warming up the domain is that slow, gradual ramp up. Like Andy said, if you buy a brand new domain and then on day 2 you send out 10,000 emails, that's going to look suspicious as hell. So you do need to ramp up slowly. What you're effectively doing is showing that you're using your email address the way a human would, not the way a spammer would. So this is with secondary domains. The reason you would set this up is to keep it at arm's length from your main domain. So I've got Ryan@startupsource.com. I don't send cold emails from that. The reason is if anything were to happen and I was experimenting with some new cold email tactic and it blew up in my face, all the legitimate emails that I send from Ryan@startupsource.com would go straight into the spam folder. And then, I'd have to maybe buy a new domain to move the website across and all this hassle. And you don't want, you don't want receipts or invoices coming and landing in the spam vault. All sorts of bad things are going to happen. So for security's sake, I usually recommend setting up on a secondary domain. So the reason you set up on G Suite or something similar is because you start off with a higher level of trust. There's a reputation score and all sorts of stuff that goes into these metrics. SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, this is what they stand for here. Don't worry, there's no prizes for memorizing exactly what they are. Basically, all you need to do is copy and paste some stuff into your DNS settings to set all this stuff up. But it's just another thing that you've got to do. And if you're not super technical, it can be a bit frustrating. Google's instructions on how to do this are not great. You can tell they were written by an engineer. No offense to all the engineers out there, we love you, but it's not the most user-friendly for us non-technical people. So this can be a little bit tricky to set up otherwise. And then we've got the warm-up thing. So if you were to warm up manually, the way you do it is you'd want to sign up to 4 or 5 email lists so you're receiving emails. Then you start sending out some emails manually to your friends and family and tell them, hey, look, I'm warming up a new email address. When I send you an email, can you please reply to it? It doesn't have to be a massive reply. 2 or 3 sentences is enough, but you want to start off, maybe you send out sort of 5 emails a day, and then the next week you ramp it up to 10 emails a day, and then the following week you ramp it up to 20 or 30 emails a day. The thing is, like, when you do this manually, if you actually think about it, if you have to sit down and send out 10 emails a day and get your friends and family to reply back, that's okay. If you're sending out 40 emails per day and getting friends and family to reply, that turns into a lot of work. In the past, I've paid VAs to do this stuff for me, and it ended up being really expensive and really time consuming. So it is really nice when there's an automated way of doing this. So I really like the fact that Postaga does that now. So yeah, so just to give you an indication of what would be involved if you were to go down and try and do this yourself, which I don't recommend anymore. Try and use a tool to do it. We're going to talk about messaging now, and this is probably the bulk of what we're going to talk about. Because whenever I talk to people about cold email and they say they haven't had great results from it, the next question after we've talked about setup and deliverability and relevance and the audience and all that kind of stuff is, show me the emails that you're sending out. And there's a few common mistakes that a lot of people make. So this is an email that I got myself. So what I'd like you to do in the chat, if we just take a few minutes now, have a look at this email and jot down some ideas. What do you think they're doing badly? And I'll give you a hint. The very first thing that they're doing badly is this landed in the spam folder, as you can see. So they failed on the deliverability front. Now, just to kind of set the scene here a little bit, this is not the worst spam email I've ever seen. This is actually pretty good as far as spam emails go. So this is probably a 4 out of 10. There's a lot that could be improved here, but it's not terrible. So yeah, if you got some ideas on stuff that you could do, let me pull up the Q&A here for a second. Oh, can I do that with Zoom? Maybe I can't.
Probably.
Andy, can you read?
Yeah. That would be, I would be a better co-host if I did that. Rob said, not personalized with your name.
Boom.
Burhan
Yes.
says, package in the subject.
Yeah.
Formatting is off.
Yeah. Blue text. What's with that? Yeah.
Just a bad subject line.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else. I mean, it's not personalized or necessarily really relevant to you.
Absolutely. Well, all good stuff. All good stuff. And what I've done, I'll show you this in a moment. So I've rewritten this email just to show you the difference between a spam email and a cold email. So I've rewritten this email to make it far more effective, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment.
And the call to action, whatever that is bad.
Please share your contact details and let us know your convenient time. Yeah, okay, it's not even correct English. All right, so just to give you a few kind of benchmarks here. So what we typically aim for, just gonna get this out of the way. When we're talking about performance when it comes to cold email, we're really looking at 2 numbers. The open rate, which is what percentage of people open my email. And then we're looking at the reply rate, which is what percentage of people actually replied to my email. With the open rate, the main, assuming you've done all the deliverability stuff and assuming you're sending emails out to a relevant audience of people, the main thing that you can do to improve the open rate is to test out different subject lines. Like you saw, that one powerful SEO package may not have been the most effective subject line. They'd probably get a lot more mileage out of testing some different stuff. The subject line, if you think about your own inbox and how many times you've kind of scanned through that and you've seen something that obviously looks spammy, like a marketing email from someone you don't know or don't recognize, or you just look at it and think, I don't need that, I'm not interested in that, and you delete it without even opening the email. That's the worst thing that can happen. Like at the very least, if you've got a good subject line, the rest of your email sucks. At least you're getting the opportunity for them to actually read your sucky email. The worst thing in the world is where they delete it without even looking at it. So open rate's really important. Subject line's really important for determining your open rate. Now, an acceptable open rate is 30%. If you're getting an open rate below 30%, something has gone wrong. And maybe your deliverability isn't on point and you need to go back and set that up correctly. Maybe the audience that you're reaching out to is the wrong audience. And you might need to rethink who you're targeting or who you're trying to sell to. Or it may well be that, the subject line that you've got in there is just not particularly compelling, and people don't really want to click on it. On the other hand, what I would consider an awesome open rate is anything above 50%. It's going to depend on the vertical. It's going to depend on exactly who you're targeting. HR managers tend to be a little bit happier to get on an email or get on a call with someone they've never spoken to. A lot of the more technical types that I've met have the shields up when it comes to cold email, so you might get a lower open rate. So it does depend a little bit on who you're targeting and what kind of companies you're targeting and what stage you're at and all of that. But as a general rule of thumb, if you're getting below 30%, stop what you're doing, go back to the drawing board, rethink your approach. If you're getting above 50%, that's great. Keep doing what you're doing. You can probably then think about testing out email copy to see if you can get the reply rate up. And if you're doing somewhere between 30 and 50%, what I'd recommend is focusing on keep testing more subject lines until you get over that 50% mark. Then it's probably good enough with your subject line to shift focus over and focus on the reply rate. Now, the reply rate, what percentage of people actually replied to my email? So that's mostly determined by the content of the email itself, the call to action, the personalization, what you're telling people you can do to help them out. Now, what I'd consider an acceptable reply rate, again, depends on what you're asking them to do, of course. If you're asking them to get on a phone call with you, it's a much bigger ask than getting them to join a free Facebook group or to download something for free. So, your mileage may vary there, but an acceptable open rate, if you're asking for them to get on a phone call, is at least 5%. An awesome reply rate is anything above 10%. So again, if you're kind of getting less than 5%, maybe you need to reconsider what you're offering. Maybe you need to work on your messaging quite a bit, test out something different. Maybe you need to try something a little bit left field, like put some links in there to some stuff, or put a video in there, or put something else in there that's a bit more engaging, or work on your copywriting skills. If you're getting somewhere between 5 and 10%, you're on the right path, and you just need to keep on testing until you can get above the 10% mark.
I have actually a question here.
Yeah.
Have you done much experimentation with personalized images or personalized videos inserted into the mails themselves? I know there are some tools out there and some that we may be integrating with in the near future that do that. Have you seen differences in reply rates based on like hyper personalized content like that?
Yes. So I've got a few interesting anecdotes there. The one thing to bear in mind, so the more links you include, the more images you include, the more videos and stuff you include, some mail servers are going to block that. So if you're reaching out to banks or something like that, where there's a lot of cybersecurity firms, stuff like that, I'd probably stick with a plain text email, just because you got the best chance of getting through. The more stuff you go adding into your email, even though it's probably going to improve the reply rate normally, it also runs the risk of getting blocked. So just like test it out, but it really depends on the industry that you're targeting. I've got one client at the moment that's doing a partnership campaign for them, and they've had, I think they got so what he did was a short video that was just a generic video. It's just like, hi, my name's Bar. This is what we could do for you. And it runs for about 40 seconds or something. Not personalized, doesn't mention the other person's name, doesn't do the logo thing on the front. And that's been really effective for him. I think he's had like 12%. So out of every 100 emails that he sent, he's booked 12 meetings. So he's doing really well out of that. As a general rule of thumb, having personalized images is really effective, just bearing in mind that marketers ruin everything. So if you're targeting a vertical that has seen that, it comes across as a bit of a gimmick sometimes. If you're targeting a vertical that hasn't seen that, hasn't been exposed to that, then it'll be really more effective. So I'm a big fan of personalizing images and stuff like that. Just don't lean on it as a crutch. Like if you have a really awesome plain text email with a great offer and a great call to action, that's still going to outperform a crappy email with a crappy call to action and a crappy offer that happens to have some, kind of fancy stuff in.
So I had someone do this tactic on me that worked, that I was like so impressed by, where there was like a video that's on like a piece of whiteboard said, "Hey Andy," and then I clicked the video, and the guy in the video said, "Hey Andy, thanks for opening this video," and then like had like a mini pitch to get me on a call. It was like a little 30-second video, and then I took the call and I said, "How did you do this?" Because like you said my name on the video and it was like very personalized. He said, "Here's the deal. I'm reaching out exclusively to people named Andy. I have a 30-second video for just people named Andy. I have a 30-second video for people named John. And I have different campaigns just based on first name." And man, that was impressive. That got me on the call.
And at the other end of the spectrum too, so my marketing manager has another business selling a course or something, so she's looking for partners at the moment. And so she sat down for 2 days last week and just recorded a quick 30-second video and over again. But it was, "Hi John, hi Steve, hi Sarah, hi." She did that for like 200 different, and it's not, you can like sort them out because there's more than one Andy on the list. There's more than one John on the list.
Sure.
But even so, she spent hours and hours and hours doing that. But the results are phenomenal. So if you are going, I think with all this stuff, if we talk about that spectrum that I mentioned at the start, so the more you're going towards, the higher value a client or a potential partner or someone is, the more time you can afford to spend on personalization. If you're going after really small business owners that might be worth maybe $500 to you over their lifetime, is it worthwhile sitting down and doing a unique video just for them? Probably not. So you might be able to get away with, coming out the most common names. What you can also do is have like an intro bit, and then it cuts to something else, and then you can just film that bit, and that's kind of static. That's the same for all of them, and you just film the intro bit, stitched onto the other one, or get a video editor to do that. You can do all of these things. I mean, at the end of the day, these are like the 1%ers that will take an excellent email to being godlike. It's not going to make up for an email that sucks to begin with. So it's important to just keep that in mind. Hang on, I need to go to the next slide here. So let's talk about subject lines first of all. So a good subject line does 3 things. Number 1, it arouses curiosity. It makes you go, "Ooh, I wonder what that did. I wonder what that is. I wonder what's going to happen if I click on that. I wonder what they mean." This is the classic clickbaity stuff. Don't do this, but classic clickbaity stuff, like the 7 ways to lose like belly fat or something like that. Number 5 will really surprise you, and you look at it going, even though I know it's clickbait, I still want to find out what number 5 is. So there's a few things that you can do there. But secondly, it feels human. And that subject line, so this is something we've been testing. There's a subject line that I'm going to mention at the end. It absolutely feels human. It does not feel like a marketing email at all. And the last one is it's personalized. A few people picked up on that when they saw that spam email before. No personalization in the subject line. Now, if you're going to use personalization, and I recommend that you do, again, if you're going to bury it in the email and not use it in the subject line, you're kind of putting the cart before the horse, because the way where it's probably going to make the most difference is in the subject line, so that they can click on it, and then you've got the attention focused on the email itself. You might have great personalization in the email, but if you neglect it in the subject line, it doesn't help. I've also, bear in mind, I've also had good success with emails and subject lines that weren't super personalized. I think like first name is pretty much standard for the course now. You sort of have to include that, but there's infinite degrees of personalization that you go to. They're not always necessary, but as a general rule of thumb, it's pretty helpful. So here are a few subject lines that I've had success with in the past. So you've got the classic one. So the thing is, even though this is well known, used everywhere, almost a cliche, it still is effective. And that's quick question. I like to personalize it and put their first name first. I've seen like a slightly higher open rate whenever I've done that. But quick question is always a classic one. And generally, if we're testing out something new, that's usually one of the first subject lines that we'll test. Free for a coffee next Tuesday. So that's really effective. Now, here's the thing. You don't actually need to have any intention of going and meeting them for a coffee. You don't even need to be in the same city or the same country. The point is just to get their attention and get them to open the email. So you know, you could do that, and then they might say, oh yeah, actually I'd love a coffee next Tuesday, and then you say, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm going to be out of town that day, but maybe we can get on a call instead. It's fine. Don't stress too much about, you know, and certainly don't go booking plane tickets flying to another country to meet up for a coffee because you said you would. It's just there to grab their attention. This one here, now, just bearing in mind with subject lines, you don't have a huge amount of space to work with, so be really careful with this one. But do you need your value proposition at company name? Do you need more clients at Postaga? Do you need more SEO clients at your agency? Whatever it is, that can be really effective. Hey, first name. So, hey, Bill. Hey, Steve. That actually sometimes works really well because people are like, oh, hang on, have I met this person? It doesn't look like the kind of email you get from a mailing list, like a standard sort of marketing email. So people are a bit, they don't have their guard up quite as much whenever you use a subject line like that. And this one is a little bit harder to pull off, but it's really effective when you do. So if you notice that there's an event that's happening or a conference, and this is more relevant pre-COVID, I suppose. It's a bit harder to do now, but if you can mention an event that happened recently that you're pretty confident they attended, you can generally find this out on LinkedIn. If people are saying they're going to an event or something, you can contact them and say, hey, did you go to SaaSdoc? Did you go to whatever, you know, the event is? Even if you didn't go, it doesn't matter. The point is you're mentioning something that they've probably been to. And then they think, oh, did we meet there? Were you there as well? You've got something in common. So that's why it's effective. A really good way to think about this is to think of your subject line like an ad. So I come from a PPC background. I've spent ungodly sums of money on Google ads and Facebook ads. And so you've got very limited space to work with. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to just grab their attention. You're not trying to inform or educate or persuade. In the case of paid advertising, that's what happens on the landing page. The ad itself, the job of the ad itself is just to move them to the landing page. And with cold email, the job of the subject line is just to get their attention, get them to click on it. And then when they get to the actual email itself, that's when you've got a bit more time and a bit more space to really present your product or service and inform or educate or persuade. You don't want to try and do that in the subject line because you don't have enough space to do it effectively. Just want to get them to click on it. There's also a tool that I found recently, emailsubjectlinegrader.com. Now, take this with a handful of salt because I've had subject lines that performed pretty poorly on Email Subject Line Grader and performed brilliantly when I actually tested them out. So this is just a general kind of tool, but if you're kind of a novice at copywriting and not really sure what to do or whether this is going to work or not, run it through Email Subject Line Grader. You'll get a score on that email subject line, and it'll give you some advice on what you can do to tweak it or improve it. Just bear in mind they tend to prefer shorter subject lines that are a bit more personalized. So that's another tool that you can use just to tighten up your copy if you're not much of a copywriter or you're a bit inexperienced with it and you're not really confident and you want to figure out how to get better at it. That's a tool you could use there. Alrighty. We might, if anyone's got any questions on this, hopefully we've got some time at the end to go through Q&A and stuff like that. But if we talk about an email, so we've talked about the subject line so far. Now we're going to talk about the actual email content itself. So a good email. Number one, it focuses on them and their problems. I can't tell you how many emails I get. It's like, you know, hey, Ryan, we do this. We're really good because of this. We won all these awards. We're fantastic. And you read that, like, cool. I don't care about you. I'm more interested in me. Tell me about me. And so a really quick kind of litmus test of that is read your email copy. How many times did you use the word I or the word we? How many times did you use the word you? And it's kind of difficult to do sometimes, but if you can flip that around, so say the same thing, but put you in front of it instead of I, it will make a difference in terms of the kind of response rate that you get. A good email is also concise. If we're cold emailing people, we're reaching out to decision makers, people with the power and the authority to sign checks and do business with us and make decisions. Those people are always busy and there are always a lot of demands on their time. So don't waste it. I can't tell you how many emails I've seen with all these, really flowery, I hope you had an excellent weekend. Over here, I went out camping, and you're like, cool, don't care, get to the point. So don't mess around too much, especially on the first email that goes out, because that's really your opportunity to make good first impression. You don't want to waste screen real estate, and you don't want to waste the few seconds of attention that you've got on stuff that's kind of irrelevant. If we've got it, this is kind of a cultural thing. I've found that Americans instinctively get this stuff and they just get straight to the point, which I really like. I spent a lot of time in the UK. I think this is something that Brits in particular struggle with. They'll have a line or two about the weather, and it's almost like a cultural thing. They have to mention the weather somewhere in some kind of new social interaction, and I try and kind of encourage people to get past that and just get to how you can actually help them faster, and they'll generally get better results. But it is a point, you do need to kind of take culture into consideration when you are sending out cold emails. The final thing here is that it needs to have a really clear call to action. A lot of, you might have the best email in the world, but if you get to the end of that email and you're not sure what to do next, you've kind of wasted all that effort. So above all else, if someone reads your email and they're going, okay, it's focused on them, it's concise, I know what it's about, I know what you do, I know how you can help me, and I know what I need to do next to move this forward, then you've written a good email. But that call to action is where a lot of people fall over. So I'm going to give you a framework. Now, this is a good standard framework. I mentioned that I've got a done for you cold email service. This is the one that we start with probably 90% of the time, just because it's so effective. So the way that I want you to think about this 4-sentence initial email. So this is the very first email in a sequence that they'll receive. This is our opportunity to make a good first impression, and you'll generally get the best open rate and best reply rate on the first email that goes out in the sequence. So this is a good format to follow. So the 4-sentence initial email follows 4 questions. So the first question that this has to answer is, who are you? I've seen cold emails where people don't even introduce themselves. And it's like, okay, it takes like a moment just to say, hey, I'm a real person. This is me. This is what I do. I'm Ryan from Startup Source. We run a community for SaaS founders. We can help you with this. So who are you? Second question you got to answer is, what can you do to make my life better? So and I'll show all this in a moment when we go back and we revisit that SEO package, cold email, spam email that we got before, because they don't really nail that part. What can you do to make my life better? And it doesn't need to be like the 10 things that you could do. We do SEO and we do this and we do this and we do web development. No, just pick one thing and really, really nail it. What can you do to make my life better? The third one that people neglect is, why should I believe you? So that's where you might name drop some people who, mutual connections on LinkedIn. That's where you might mention some famous companies that you've got as clients. That's why you might drop some stats in there. We've worked with 300 small business owners. Whatever you've got in terms of social proof, case studies, testimonials, reviews are good. Anything that you've got that proves that you can do what you do effectively is really valuable to include in there. And a lot of people don't do that. So that's a clear and easy win there. And then the fourth one here is, what do I do next? So in an email, who are you? How do you make my life better? Why should I believe that you can actually do that? And what do I do next? And that last bit is that call to action. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe you want them to sign up for a webinar. Maybe you want them to join your Facebook group. Maybe you want them to download something, whatever it is you want them to do. And generally speaking, for these purposes, we want to get them onto a phone call. But it's nice to have another kind of softer call to action as well. If you can make that incredibly clear and obvious at the end, it's going to be an effective email. So this is a basic framework that we use. We've got a whole lot of other templates in the course that we've got that I mentioned earlier. We've got 47 different templates at different stages of the sequence that will go out. But this is one that we use a lot of the time, and I think it's pretty effective. We've had great results with it ourselves. So it's kind of the basic one that we start with, and then we experiment from there. So let's go back to this email that we were talking about originally, the powerful SEO package from Randolph at searchranknow.com. Sorry, Randolph, you're probably going to get bombarded after this. So very first thing here, he doesn't mention my first name at all. A few people picked up on that, does not even bother saying, hey, Ryan. I hope you are doing great. I was surfing through your business. Blah, 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 blah. We are a team of. We are proud to inform you that like it's all about them. It's got nothing to do with me. Or, sorry, kind of revealing everything far too soon. It's got nothing to do with me or my problems or what I need or anything like that. So it kind of fails there. It doesn't really get me excited about it. Then they've got a whole lot of bullet points here about all the services that they offer. These are all the tactics that we use, and it's, you know, like it's far too much. The other thing that they do here is this call to action, like a few people pointed out, is really weak, and it's kind of weird too. Like, share your contact details, Skype ID or phone number, and let us know your it's bad English there. Call so our seniors can contact you directly. Okay, so this person, Randolph, isn't even the person I'm going to be talking to. So there's so much to dislike about this email. Like I said, it's not terrible, but it's probably a 4 out of 10. So yeah, and again, you know, 100 professionals. So like I said, he's tried to make an attempt at that why should we believe you part. Our team handled 400 plus SEO projects. Like, cool. I don't care about these numbers though. I want to see results. Show me some results. That would have been more effective here. So this is that same email, but rewritten in a way that's more effective. So here's a subject line that you could try. And I didn't mention this one before, this idea for you, Ryan, that I've had success with that. That works really well. Hey, Ryan, your website, startupsource.com, looks great, but it looks like you're not getting as much search traffic as you should be. Notice this, your website, you're not getting as much search traffic as you should be. See, I've flipped it around. I'm not mentioning we're good at SEO. I'm mentioning you could be making, you could be getting more search traffic with your website. So flip that around. Also show that I've done my research. I've got some personalization in the subject line. I've got some personalization in here. I've got some other personalization here because at least you've looked up the website. My name's Randolph. So who are you? I run an award-winning SEO agency named SearchRank now. Okay, award-winning. So you're probably pretty good at what you do. We specialize in helping startups like your company name get more customers by improving your Google search ranking. So I know straight away, even if I'm not super technical or super good at SEO, I know what you do in layman's terms, and I can understand the value that you provide. This next little bit here about, you know, prove that you can do what you do. Companies like Vertical Startup Summit, SaaStock, and Indie Hackers have all used our services to help them rank higher in Google. Cool. I can look at that and go, I know those. They're all communities. I run a community. These are other communities. So if you've helped other communities, people who are in my industry, get great results from Google, fantastic. That's great. That's interesting and relevant to me. This one here, would love to learn more about your goals for 2021, discuss how we can help get you there faster. So if they're going to ask for my time, I want to know what I'm going to get out of that. And talking about my goals for 2021 and how they could help me get there faster is really compelling. It doesn't feel like I'm giving up my time to help them. It feels like they're helping me. Are you free for a quick call next Tuesday or Wednesday? Now, I've found just if you are going to ask for a call, it's a bit weird if you send a Calendly link as the call to action on a first email. Just culturally, it feels a bit weird. You can do that in a follow-up email or something like that. But you also want to avoid that kind of back and forth. How about Tuesday at 11? Actually, I'm busy then. Can you do Friday at 4? Actually, how about next week? And you never end up meeting up. So what I found is generally more effective. Are you free for a quick call? Insert 2 days in the middle of a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, towards the end of next week, whatever it is. They will reply back and let you know, actually, I'm busy on Tuesday. Can you do Friday at 1, whatever it is? And you say, look, here's my Calendly. Do you want to just pick a time that works for you there and send them your Calendly link? And generally, that's the most effective way I've found. The other thing here is he didn't do much with his signature. He just said, kind regards, Randolph. I know you can't, it's kind of cut off here, but that's all it said. Signature is a place you can do a lot of things with. So a link to his website would be there. Book a call with me. Even though it's kind of weird putting a link to your Calendly or other kind of meeting planner, meeting booker thing as the call to action, especially in the initial email. There's no reason why you can't have it in the signature down the bottom there. There's a few other cool signature tricks that we go into in the course. I'm not going to have time to cover it today, but there's a few cool things you could do there. The one thing to bear in mind here is the number of links. So as a general rule of thumb, if you've got more than 3 links in your email, especially the first one, that might affect your deliverability, and some mail servers might send you straight into the spam folder. So try and go a little bit light on the links and the images and all that kind of stuff in the initial email, at least, or test it out and see how that impacts deliverability. But what I've tried to do here is take what is kind of a spammy email and reframe that as one that is very targeted, very relevant, with a clear call to action, very concise. I haven't got all the bullet points here about all the various services they've offered. I've just picked one that I think will add the most value, and grow them from there. One thing you'll notice though, the subject line here, idea for you, Ryan. I don't actually have an idea in here. You could put an idea in here, and it would probably be even better. But the point is, the subject line just exists to get me to open the email. By the time I open the email and I'm reading through all this, I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds kind of interesting. It doesn't matter whether there's an idea or not, or maybe what you meant was you were going to get on and tell me about that idea on a phone call instead, whatever it is. So don't stress too much about using the subject line. Remember, the goal of the subject line is just to get them to click and open the email. So that's kind of the end. How are we going for time here? Ooh, we have gone over time. Sorry.
No worries. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. If you got to jump off, we are recording this and we have some Q&A coming up that we're going to take as well. We got a bunch of really good questions and we're going to get to those shortly.
So just quickly, so yeah, we sort of ran out of time. I'm really sorry about that. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that you can do with this. We spoke about image personalization, but there's preheating, there's decision maker dayparting, there's mutual connection management. There's all this good stuff in there. We've also got a bunch of bonus materials in this course too. So if you are interested, head over to preheatingmethod.com, type in that discount code, save yourself some cash, and you can get all the course and all the templates and everything else that we've spoken about today. I can show you some templates and stuff like that, but we might open up to Q&A if we've still got some time for that, if anyone's interested.
Yep. So we'll jump into Q&A now. We have some really good questions. I guess the one question that I think is really good is like, how do you determine open rate? And related to that, are all of your cold emails coming from a platform like MailChimp, or are you using something else?
Okay. Excellent question. So open rate. So open rate is determined. Okay. So at a core level, if I send out 100 emails, how many of them were opened? Now, generally you'll get that stat from whichever software tool you're using to send the emails out. MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, etc., all that kind of stuff is great for sending newsletters and blasting out to your existing email list where you've got their permission. It is against their terms of service to reach out to people who you don't have their permission. So it's not really designed for that either. It's the wrong tool for the job. So
I know people who have done that. They're like, all right, I got a list, I'll import it into MailChimp. But like a service like MailChimp, those are designed for people who have already opted in to get emails from you.
Yeah. I think there's space for both. So I absolutely think like MailChimp's great if you want to use it for that purpose. But you do want a purpose-built tool. If you are going to do cold email outreach, probably better off with something like Postaga. Is going to save you a bunch of time and make things much easier. You could just do it in Gmail yourself if you wanted to send things out. But if you're going to be sending emails at scale or at any kind of significant volume, you really want to be using something like Postaga to do that. So what is vertical marketing? That's just the name of a conference. That's all it was. It's not a specific tactic or anything like that. It's just the name of a conference.
How would you prospect if you are a web designer?
Good question. Okay, so the problem with this is that there's a lot of web designers out there, and they all send lots and lots of cold emails out. And so it can be really difficult to stand out. What I'd recommend is, so think about what you can offer them that is not so time sensitive. So the thing about web design is like, you need it when you're about to build your website, and then you probably don't need it for a few years after that. So the window of opportunity you've got there is quite narrow. What I'd recommend that might be more effective is trying to reach out to partners. So go and reach out to other agency owners. So, reach out to other agencies that are not competing with you directly. Go and reach out to SEO agencies, PPC agencies, design agencies. and just say, hey, look, anytime you get new clients who are going to need web development, we can offer that. Here's what we can do. And then, you send out a few emails, you get some partners, but then you'll get a steady stream of work coming in. If you are going to do it directly, what I'd recommend you do is try and offer something like, hey, I noticed that you've got a few bugs on your website. Do you want to get on a quick call and I can talk you through how to solve those problems? Something that you can add value straight away. And that will make you stand out. The main thing that you want to do is, if they got 10 other emails from other web developers, it's impossible for that person to know, are you any good? Do you have a good track record? What do you do differently? But the one thing that you can do to stand out is to get in front of them and start building a personal relationship, because once they talk to you and they get to know you, there's a lot more trust there, and you're going to be the person that they want to deal with. Okay, code's not working. Burhan, can you, so you got to buy it first and then input the code. If you drop me an email, ryan@startupsource.com, I can sort that out for you. So I'll do that. Yeah.
Someone, this is an interesting one. How are your results comparing email and InMail with LinkedIn?
So I've never had good results using InMail ever. I don't know anyone who has. Maybe some people in the recruitment world might have. Every time I've sent emails, it's just never really done a whole lot. I do like using LinkedIn and cold email together.
Yeah.
Well, actually, especially with some of the changes that LinkedIn's made recently, one of the things we're experimenting with is send a bunch of cold emails out first, because you can only send 100 a week now, 100 connection requests a week now through LinkedIn. So you can't just kind of carpet bomb the whole thing. So what we're testing out now is sending out the cold email, and then after a few weeks, export the list of people who didn't open the emails at all. And those are the people that you send connection requests to on LinkedIn. That's a lot more effective. As for InMails themselves, I've never had great results with them personally. Can I drop my email address in the chat? A few people have asked for it.
Yeah, I'll throw that in. So it's Ryan@StartupSauce.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
like I said, if you can't get that code to work or you run into any problems, just drop me an email and I'll sort it out for you. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Are there any more questions here?
Details on how to use a separate email for cold email versus when you would use your main email. I think the simple answer to this is, if you're doing cold email, you would never use your main email. You would always use either an alternate domain, like let's say startupsauce.co or .net, or what we do at Postaga is often using a subdomain like m.startupsauce.com or something like that. But the idea is you want to keep your outreach email inboxes completely separate from your regular emails, just in case you get blacklisted and you end up with your emails going to spam folders, that it won't affect your regular email deliverability. Because I have not personally experienced this or seen this with any of our users, but I've seen situations where people do cold email, like just connect their main email address to some platform, send out thousands of emails all at once, and then their main domain is taking a hit, and there's not really a good way to recover from that.
I made exactly that mistake, and it was really annoying when I go to send invoices out for clients and they'd never get them because they were going straight into the spam folder. So you want to avoid that situation if you possibly can. Buying a new domain is not expensive. Setting up on a subdomain, it doesn't cost you anything. So yeah, pick one of those two options, but as long as you don't send out from your main domain that you send your normal emails out from, you should be fine. You just want to keep everything at arm's length there.
Well, next question, I guess, is how does Postaga fit in here, and can you talk about the done for you service? So for the Postaga community, this webinar is a resource for anyone thinking about doing cold outreach to find new customers for their businesses. Hopefully, Ryan's advice and insights here have given you some ideas for what you could do for prospecting and what you can do for your pitches. And hopefully, Postaga is a great resource for you for for sending out these campaigns. As far as the done for you service, Ryan has his own company that does done for you outreach specifically for cold email. Postaga also has a done for you service, but our main focus is on link building and digital PR outreach. Ryan is an absolute expert when it comes to cold outreach for sales, so I defer to him if you're looking into that.
And likewise, link building is something I wish I understood a little bit more. But yeah, I'd defer to Andy on this if you are interested in doing that. Cool. Alrighty. I think that might be it in terms of these last few questions are just kind of some housekeeping stuff. Guys, again, if you had anything, just drop me an email and I'm happy to answer any questions on the email.
Right, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Ryan. Really appreciate you sharing all these insights with us today. If you came in late or you left early and are seeing this, we are going to have a recording that we will share with everyone. So you'll get that afterwards. And thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for all the great questions. This has been a blast.
Thanks, Andy. Really appreciate it. And yeah, it's been a pleasure, guys.
All right. Thank you.